He has, of course, been a vocal critic of his boss, George Gascon. He may one day be the district attorney himself. John, in terms of the reporting that we know of, our colleague Bill Melugin at Fox News Channel obtained these tapes, told the DA's office about it, and then the announcement of the policy change before the Fox News story could be published. What is your sort of big takeaway about what happened here? And also specifically, is this case itself, the Tubbs case, a done deal? Because even George Gascon is now admitting that this is not the way that he would like for things to be. Is there any way to change it, or is this basically 2 years in juvenile for a 26-year-old?
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me on. Always a pleasure to be with you. Let me take that last question first. This is a done deal from the standpoint of the people's position. There's nothing we can do to undo what Gascon allowed to happen here. Tubbs was sentenced to 2 years, and that in and of itself is of dubious legality. I think Tubbs will be challenging that 2-year sentence to see if the juvenile system can maintain jurisdiction over him for 2 years. After all, he was already 26 when he was sentenced to this 2-year term. As for the big picture, I think you've talked to a number of people today who have laid it out, that this is a response to George Gascon's hemorrhaging of support, hemorrhaging of political support, and losing support from some pretty significant people in LA politics. First, it was mayoral candidate Buscaino, who supported the recall. After that, we heard that Karen Bass, who's also a mayoral candidate, asked that her name be taken off of one of his supportive websites. We heard from a 30-year-old friend of his, former Chief of Police Charlie Beck, who supported the recall. And just recently, we heard from mayoral candidate Rick Caruso, who at one time supported him and then said it may be time for him to step down or be recalled. So he understands what's happening in this city and in this county. The dominoes are starting to fall. And so he threw out these, what he called minor adjustments to his policies to stop the hemorrhaging of his support. Are these policies real or fake? Look, I think every deputy district attorney wishes they were real, because if they were real, then we can provide more support to our victims and better outcomes for our victims. But we are skeptical, and we are right to be skeptical, because the timing of this suggests that he's in crisis mode and that he put these policies out for political reasons, not for policy reasons. So I'll tell you, look, the electorate can stand a certain amount of incompetence, but they cannot stand a liar. And if he put these new policies out for purely political reasons, and he has gotten the hopes up of a lot of victims throughout the county who hope that these policies will make better outcomes for their case, and it turns out not to be true, then I think his political career is over. I don't think this will affect the recall effort at all. I think that's going full steam ahead. Policy changes or not, he's already demonstrated that he is not competent for the job he holds.
So when you say that you think potentially that these are fake policies, do you mean that this is just words? There will not be any action behind it, that he's just doing this temporarily just to sort of stop the bleeding ahead of the Fox News report that came out this morning?
Well, yeah, essentially that's what I'm saying. Now, look, he's got to do something. He's got to show 1, 2, 3, 4 changes. He's going to announce that special circumstances are going to be filed in a couple of cases, but they'll be indistinguishable from many other cases in which he will not allow them. Why do I say this? Well, if you look at the policies, he has created kangaroo committees made up of inexperienced prosecutors and public defenders to make the decision about how to charge cases. These are not difficult decisions. The decision whether to file a special circumstance is a very easy decision to make. It's either supported by the evidence or it isn't. So the fact that he has created several hoops for us to have to jump through suggests to me that he just wants to make this difficult. He wants to string it out. He wants to maintain support. God knows how many people have been calling him, telling him, you better do something or you're going to lose my support. And I think that's what's happening here.
Phil.
First of all, what kind of organization lets their top deputies go on television and blast the boss? If I did that, I probably wouldn't have a job tomorrow. So in a sense, that speaks well to Gascon's tolerance for dissent, but it also speaks to a dysfunctional office. I mean, what's going on there?
Well, it wasn't dysfunctional before he showed up. I mean, there wasn't much vocal dissent because prior DAs acted within the law and within policy and within ethics. He is a rogue DA. He is a radical. He's doing his own thing. As for, giving him credit for allowing people like me to speak, well, we have something called the Constitution. We have a First Amendment right to speak out. We have a First Amendment right to let the public know that the district attorney, who has jurisdiction over 10 million people every day, isn't following the law, that he's not supporting victims. He's not advocating on behalf of the people. He's more aligned himself with perpetrators. He calls them clients. The people have a right to know this, and people like me are speaking up and telling them about it.
And just to clarify something real quick before we go, you talked about lying. The timeline of all this. Gascon claims that he just learned about these tapes on Thursday when Bill Melugin contacted the office and Fox News. But we've been hearing about these tapes for some time. Other people in the office clearly knew about these tapes. Is that believable that he had no idea about these tapes until just a few days ago?
It's unbelievable except for the ineptitude of this administration. When you realize how incompetent they are, then it is believable. Let's talk about the timeline. On February 16th, he was interviewed by Frank Stoltz, and he told Frank Stoltz that he was adjusting his juvenile policy, but he said, even someone like Hannah Tubbs should be kept in juvenile court, even under these new policies. I wouldn't have transferred her to an adult court. That was on the 16th. And then on the 17th, and I confirmed this with Bill Melugin earlier today, on the 17th, Bill called Gascon's administration and had a conversation with them about these recordings. They were surprised. His inner circle didn't know about these recordings. That was on the 17th. What happens the next day? 4:30, after work, he releases new directives and new memoranda laying out these new policies. That was crisis mode. We all knew when our phones started going off and we checked our emails that he was in crisis mode, because you don't release policies at 4:30 on a Friday of a holiday weekend.
Well, he certainly did.
And then on the 20th, we got a press release, and you saw his press release where he does a 180-degree turn from what he told Frank Stoltz.
Right.
So
Deputy DA John McKinney, you've been with us many times at 7 o'clock. We always appreciate it. Thank you for being with us tonight. And Phil, thanks for your reporting today.
Thank you, guys. Always appreciate it.